Welcome back to the High Ticket AI Systems Podcast. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Trent Dyball. Trent, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today?
Good, Jordan. Mate, I'm excited to be here today. It's been looking forward to this for a while, so excited to get into it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And for everyone that cannot tell where you are from, please let the world know exactly where home base is for you.
Australian, if you can't tell by the accent, I've been told quite a few occasions that I've got a pretty broad Aussie accent. And if you're going to live in Australia, where else would you live but the Gold Coast? So, beautiful one day, perfect the next year.
Yes, sir. I like that. At a very high level, what would you say the company does and who you guys serve best?
So my company, Media Scrum, started about 5 years ago with a business partner of mine, which is a whole different story, but it's a good one. I said I'd never have a business partner after running a few businesses, but I've got a absolute winner of a business partner now. So loving it. So we identified this gap in the market. So I'm confident it's like this the world over, but it's really hard to find true salespeople. Easy to find account service managers, easy to find people to look after clients once you've got the client signed up. Bloody hard to get a real salesperson that can close a deal. So in Australia, there's a lot of automotive events. The automotive subculture is massive in Australia. So we've got some big events out here. And both of us had worked in that automotive industry, me and my partner for, I don't know, me for like 35 plus years, my partner the same amount. And we keep getting approached by events, automotive events to sell their sponsorship and trade space. And yeah, it looked like a lucrative market. So our business fits in between the event and the sponsors. So we connect the sponsors with the events. We do all the concepts for the sponsors to get them into the event. And then as any true salesperson, we get paid on pure commission. That's where the money is. If you get a good commission rate, you can make a good living in sales if you're good at selling.
That's so funny because if you are a salesperson and you're arguing or trying to negotiate, one might say, with the company you're looking to work for, and you want a base and you're arguing for a higher base and a lower commission, that to me as a business owner screams you're not good at sales. Like you don't
100%.
trust your sales ability. Because if you're good, you're like, well, I don't want a base. Remove the base. Give me more commission. You know what I mean?
That's it. No base, uncapped commission. Then you're going to find the real salespeople.
Exactly, exactly. What were some lessons, I guess the different nuances between starting in the automotive industry 30, 35 years ago to selling and connecting the sponsors with the events? Because I imagine that I could be wrong, but the sponsorships that you guys are selling are a much higher ticket than where you first started in the automotive industry.
Yeah. So the sponsorships are generally like six-figure deals, so big deals.
Right.
And the nuances are interesting. So prior to this, I ran like a advertising agency when they were called advertising agencies. Then it became a content agency. And the real difference is now we've got two true clients. So we've got the event, which is like our client because, we try and do exclusive deals where the event, where we have the rights to sell the sponsorship into those events exclusively. And also then we've got the sponsors. So we need to match the events expectation when it comes to revenue and what they can deliver as part of a sponsorship package with the goals and challenges that the sponsors have. And I think that's where we've really hit the sweet spot. We really focus on solution-based selling. So we don't go out and we don't have like a standard deck that we send to people when they inquire about it. We have a meeting with a potential sponsor, find out what their marketing goals are for the next 12 months, if they've got any pain points, what their target market is, and then develop a bespoke sponsorship offer that matches their goals and also matches the revenue that we're required to get for the event and what the event can deliver. And it's in that part, we've found that we've been able to push the events to deliver more to sponsors by identifying different items that they haven't put a value on in the past that we can commercialize.
When you say some of the goals for the sponsors, because I'm so green, such a novice in this space, can you describe or give us a few examples of like what a goal might be for a sponsor?
So one of their goals might be to grow. So in the automotive space, you have like your DIY consumer. So the guy that will go to a retail outlet, buy whatever he needs and fix his car in the shed. And then you'll have also trained clients, so like mechanics. So a sponsor might want to grow their DIY market or grow their trade market, and then we put the programs in place to match their goals. So if their goal is to grow the DIY market, some events are really good. So as you probably understand, most of events attract automotive enthusiasts, and a lot of those are DIY. But we've got a few events where 30% of the spectators that come to an event actually work in the automotive trade as well. So when we find a sponsor that's looking to increase their revenue through their trade clients, we can just match them with those events that have the right spectator mix to match their target market.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the context there. When you're trying to land sponsorships for the events, are you cold calling these prospects? Are you cold emailing them, LinkedIn, working your network? How exactly does all that work?
Phew. So, you've got to, we realize early that if we go to a meeting and we have to educate a potential sponsor about an event, then the sales process is long. So what we try to do with a combination of LinkedIn, email, database, social is educate the potential sponsors about all the different events that we have in our schedule that we can sell. And then when we reach out to them, so we do a lot of cold calling. It'll be, hey, something like, you know, we've noticed that you've been doing this in the market. We think we've got a great fit here. We'd like to talk to you about it more. And we know that if they've seen our communications about the events and we walk in and they know a lot about the event, then the likelihood of getting them across the line is much greater. But if we're tasked with educating potential sponsors about the event, then working on pure commission, the numbers don't work out that well. So it was my business partner. I've got to give him the credit for this one. He came up with this and it really rang true for me. He goes, everybody's got something to sell. What we need is someone to sell it to. So we've invested heavily in building a database of about 5,000 potential sponsors in the automotive industry that we just email updates to like once or twice a month, keep them in the loop, and then just go through and cherry pick which ones we think are suitable for which events and start the conversation there. So a lot of cold calling, but
For sure.
generally start with educating them and then reach out to them with a personalized email or call to set up a meeting so we can do a discovery session to find out what their goals, challenges are, and then build out a sponsorship program around that.
Gotcha. Yeah, back in when I first got started in the industry, I did a lot of cold calling. And you have to have a completely different mindset to work as a pure commission only cold caller, right? And I'm very grateful for that time in my life. Part of me still misses it, I'm not gonna lie, because you pull money out of thin air. Like there's no better feeling than pulling money out of thin air, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
My, before like we're going back before I had the agency, so 30 plus years ago, I was a door-to-door salesman. And I liked it too. Selling we're selling like video easy cards. So they're worth, I don't know, 1 cent because really selling a bit of cardboard for 35 bucks. And I love that challenge about pulling money out of thin air. And then, 30 years later, I'm back to selling on commission only. And it's bloody great.
Absolutely. So you started off and framed the podcast with a very important topic. You can find great account managers, you can find great accountants, you can find great people to like help you with fulfillment, but damn it, is it hard to find true exceptional salespeople? Can you give us an overview of just from your experience what separates like, I guess, customer service reps versus true salespeople?
I mean, there's one thing that identifies them straight away. Do they have the balls to ask for the money? So I've seen it. I've seen what I think are fantastic salespeople, and they'll get right to the point, and they're too afraid to ask for the money. So that's when they're a client service person. They just need to be able to ask for the money, and not be offended when people say no, because you get a lot of
When
no's.
Okay, so give us an example of asking for the money. Is it directly I understand it's asking for the money in all industries, all service like providers, all that fun stuff. But how would one ask for the money in your specific situation? Is it just simply stating
So
the next steps?
yeah, so we just say, so if you want to lock this away, we'll send you an invoice as soon as we walk out of this meeting. And I think, I've got to say, I thought I was a good salesperson. So back to my business partner, I met him about a decade ago because I was one of his biggest clients. He was running one of the largest like custom automotive magazine in Australia. And my agency did a lot of automotive stuff. So for 10 years, I was his client. And then magazine industry's dying, obviously. So he took a redundancy package from the magazine. I thought 30 years in an agency is probably long enough. It'd be good to do something different. And we're in it quite early in our relationship at the start of the new business. We're in a meeting with a client, and I thought I was a great salesman until this meeting, and then I realized that my business partner's a better salesman. Like, so in this meeting, we'd gone through all the deck, and everyone was excited, and everyone was on the same page. And then the client said, "All right, now it's time to talk about the money." And I was sitting there, like I said, it was right at the start of when we set up the Media Scrum business. My business partner closed his laptop and started walking out the door, and I'm sitting there going, "What's happened? Has he got a message or something? Is his wife sick?" And then someone in the room goes, "Where are you off to?" My business partner's name, Matt. And he goes, "Where are you off to, Matt?" And he goes, "I can sell this sponsorship at this price. So if we're talking about price, I'm out of here. Like, we're done." And they're like, "Come back, come back, come back." Nail the thing. And I'm like, man, this guy is because I don't know. I think he's got a baby face. I call him the baby face assassin. He is absolutely brutal when it comes to negotiation. So I asked him, I go, "Dude, have I been paying overs for the last 10 years?" And he's like, "Oh, maybe just a little."
That is so, so good. Essentially, if I can articulate it back to you, is he was willing to walk away from the deal. He's not going to negotiate price. He's like, this is the value. This is what you're getting. And I'm okay not selling it to you. And I think most people, of course, for me, right? I'm not the goat by any means, but because you want the deal, you're willing to negotiate. But if you just stick to your guns, it's almost as if they're trying to like, just to see what you're going to do. Like, can the price come down? It's not that they're
Yeah.
even mad about the price, or it's not that they can't even afford the price. It's just that, can it go down? Can I
Yeah.
negotiate this? You know what I mean?
I think, and
But
so the other thing that we saw, so when I was in the agency, I saw a lot of sponsorship. Like, the clients that I was working with used to share a lot of sponsorship proposals with me and ask me if they were of value, if they thought the price was too much, if they thought the deliverables were, matched the price. And what I noticed was there was a lot of things like items in sponsorship decks that you couldn't measure. So one that I remember, which was from the it was from one of the biggest motor racing teams that we have in Australia. So if you think NASCAR in America, we've got V8 supercars down here. And it was a deck from one of those guys looking for a potential sponsor from my client. One of the line items was access to our social media. And I've gone, I like the sound of this. Can you go back to them and say, does that mean you just give us a login and we can post whenever we want? What does access to their social media mean? And, they were back and they go, it's like one post and this and that. And I go, when we started this business, we said we're going to have every line item is going to have a number next to it. So, because everything in our sponsorship proposals has a value. If you want to negotiate on price, we start taking out deliverables.
yes, absolutely. That is the only way to truly negotiate. I'm not just going to lower the price for you. Like, no, like if you want to lower the price, I'm going to remove some value.
Yeah.
I learned, you may know who Alex Hormozy is, but essentially, like, you can only nail this if your tonality is on point. It's like, if they start negotiating about price, it's like, oh, well, can you do it for cheaper? I could do it for more. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I could do it for more, opposed to doing it for cheaper, but I guess you could only say it if you have like dialed in tonality. But getting back to your point, we I like to say that I sell on value, right? So if we are going to negotiate and take, drop the price, the only way that it makes sense for me, the only way I can sleep at night without like losing moral authority is if I take away value and take away deliverables because we're lowering the price. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
That's it.
And if you don't do that, I also think that the client or the customer like loses a little respect for you in a way. It's like, oh, like you just lowered the price. Go continue. Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we won't lower the price without taking out deliverables because everything in our proposals is valuable. So if you can't afford it, we can build you a proposal that you can afford. It'll just have less. We're just not going to knock off some of the price and leave all the deliverables in there for you.
Well,
It just, like, if you do that, you start to lose your credibility because then they go, "Oh, am I buying? Is anything in there got any value if they can just knock some of the price out?" And it's like, no, we don't do it that way.
no, completely agree. Absolutely. Talk to me about what is your rule for if they say no, how many no's do I get before I like shut the door or before I set a follow up appointment or before I like let them off the.
Well, it depends what the no looks like. So if we go back and our recommendations with our proposals don't hit what they've briefed us on, which happens occasionally because sometimes you don't get the best briefs, then we'll go back and submit a different proposal, like get rebriefed on it. But I tell you what, once we get a no, we can move on pretty quickly because, like I said at the start, we've got people to sell it to, not just something to sell.
Gotcha. So if I'm hearing you correctly, even if you hear no, it's like you're moving on. It's like, all right, whatever. I'm not gonna retry or like re-engage. You just move on. Do you
We just, yes, we basically move on and then obviously keep the relationship going because
right?
because we're independent, we have different opportunities come our way, as we take on different events so we always keep the relationship going. We just know that maybe at this point in time, we've got nothing that suits a potential sponsor, but at a time in the future, we could have something. So we don't move it on. Like, interestingly, when we started this business, we've had so many people want us, like, reach out to us to sell their sponsorship packages. We would say no to 80% of the inquiries we'll get on from the event side because they're either not organized enough, they think their event's worth more than we can sell sponsorship packages for, or they won't be able to deliver on the ground. So yeah, we try to keep those relationships tight, even if we can't get a sale from them at this time, because we know in the future we'll probably have something as their goals change and as our suite of events change that will match. So it, it's about the relationship. You don't have to get a yes every time.
That's very interesting. I have switched from very transactional selling between door to door, cold calling for solar, cold calling for insurance, where it's like one call closes, right? To relationship selling. And you sell six-figure packages. I just sell five-figure packages, or yeah, five-figure packages. So, 10x different, right? Nonetheless, my friend, relationship selling, in my opinion, has been so much better. I feel like because trust is there, the sales process is easier. You don't get as much like sales resistance because like we had a relationship. You're like, you be honest with me, I'll be honest with you. Like there's no hard feelings either way, right? But getting back to like hearing no X number of times before I set a soft follow up, for me, because our ticket size is a little less than yours, a lot of the times it's like either I want to speak to my partner or they're like casting responsibility onto somebody else. I want to think about it, which to me is just uncertainty. Like, will this work for me? I have no fucking idea. Or go
I
for it.
think when they say, well, I want to think about it, they just don't have the guts to say no to you.
That is very yes, but I also think they're a little fearful of making a decision, whether it is yes or no. So what I try to do is isolate it. So let's pretend it's free for a second. Like let's put money aside. Do you think step one, two, three, four is the exact thing you need to help you grow the company? Yes, yes. So you're bought in on the process. Okay, cool. So it has to be the money then, right? I mean, yeah, like I guess I have the money, but I just don't know if it's gonna work. Well, you just said you feel like it's gonna work. You just said that you have the funds to do it. And you told me earlier that now's the right time. Do you feel like it's just like a little bit of risk that you're taking on? Yeah, it's definitely the risk, man. It's definitely the risk. And then you can get a like go. It's almost as if you have to like mentally fucking coach them how to make fucking business decisions. You know what I mean? But you're selling six-figure packages, so like they know how to fucking say yes or fucking no. For like
Yeah,
for my demographic, it's like not for anyone listening out there, like I love you, but like they just don't know how to make a decision. Like they're scared of making decisions, and I think that's just human behavior, human nature.
I think
You know
so
what I
too.
mean? Yeah,
So, and
yeah.
funny, Jordan, we do all the sponsorship packages, but we also do the trade sales. So if you're thinking like a trade booth at a trade exhibition, a lot of the events that we do have the six-figure sponsorships, but you can also just go and buy like a 3x3 trade stand for like $2,500. We
Oh shit.
find that
Okay.
the $2,500 ones take a lot more negotiation sometimes than the six-figure ones. And I think the difference is you're dealing with the owner of the business, not the marketing manager. And the owner of the business, the money's coming out of their pocket. The marketing manager, it's coming out of their budget. It's a big difference in the sales tactics there.
Oh my gosh. So yes, I'm honestly like heart to heart with you, bro. I'm thinking about going up market for our services, like selling into enterprise companies. Yes, I understand that the fucking sales cycle is significantly longer, but the yes is so much easier. Like opposed to me selling a 10K package, I will be selling a 10K per month package to a person that immediately easily can afford the fucking fees, you know? So I guess I'm kind of
So
getting
if we're going to
excited
do it, we'd
because
stop selling the trade, but they want us to sell the sponsorship and the trade.
yeah.
The trade's harder work because it's much more transactional. many more clients, and the clients are, you know, a lot of the time they're the business owners where and so they won't have a marketing plan. They work on gut feel a lot, and the money's coming out of their pocket. But if you're working with a enterprise size business that does like the six-figure sponsorship packages, they have a marketing plan. They know who their target market is, and they have a budget. We just got to make sure that our offer is better than all the other stuff that there's in front of them. So it's really different. That the transactional selling, I think, is harder. But in the sales cycle, like what you said, we've got sales cycles that are like 18 months.
But is it worth it though?
Yeah.
Longer say exactly. You know what I mean? Getting back to that topic, fuck, I'm gonna butcher this fucking quote, dude, but I think you might like it. He's like, if you want to get rich, sell something to rich people. That was one of the things. The second thing is there's literally no difference when it comes to asking for the sale on a 2.5K ticket size or a fucking 250K ticket size. There's literally no difference. It's just, hey, do you
That's
want to
it.
buy this? Whatever you say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen salespeople that are good at selling $3,000, $4,000 stuff. That when you walk in and you're asking for 350,000, they get scared, and I go, "What's the difference?" There's no difference. You just got to ask them, right? They're not going to say yes or no. The values, we know the values in our proposal because the values are there. So just be confident and ask for them.
Let's talk about confidence. I was told from Grant Cardone when I was 18, who I learned sales from initially, you only need two things: confidence and conviction. Like, the product could be ass. Like, obviously, we prefer not to suck. But like, in general, the product cannot be there. You could be in a freaking recession. A lot of bullshit could be going on. But as long as you have confidence and conviction, that's going to speak through your tonality. And like that's going to earn trust and buy trust. Feedback on
100%.
that?
So
What do you think?
I find that I'm a confident seller. So when I'm on a roll, I find the next sale easier to make. When I'm not on a roll, when things are hard, I'm still confident, but definitely I think sales is a confidence game. When you got it, you just go, I'm dropping deals left, right, and center. I can do no wrong over here.
That's so fucking sick, man. That's badass. Do you have a small team that's helping you with like emails and cold calls, or just you in the business part?
But mainly just me in the business, but we just use a lot of AI.
In what way?
So we use a product called Surf that plugs into LinkedIn. So once you find someone that you want to contact, Surf goes and finds all their contact details and then automatically puts it into our CRM, and we use Pipedrive our CRM. And then to create the content, we use a lot of AI. So, if we're sending out articles about new events or about a new sponsor that signed up to one of our events, we use a lot of AI around that just to make the content fast. So it just means we can push out a lot more content faster. So when I was in the agency, I did a lot of press release writing. And so when AI came, and I do love writing press releases, I just don't like writing them all day, every day. When AI came, it just means we can push out more content faster, which means we can educate those 5,000 potential sponsors faster, which just makes our sales process more streamlined.
100%. And I was actually going to talk to you about this earlier, but we're here now. With the 5K leads in the database, let's just keep it simple and call it 5K. Do you have enough intel and data on them to personalize the emails you send based on sponsorships or events that they're potentially interested in?
Yeah, so we'll do like a fortnightly to monthly newsletter, which just goes to the whole database. So in the newsletter, we try to educate, so share them a bit of information about the industry that most people in the industry will find interesting, entertain, so an entertaining fact, and then tell them a bit more about some of the events specifically that we're working on. So just say if we sign up a new sponsor to one event, we'll have an article about that. And then in one of there, it'll be a much more hard sales. And then what we do is we'll look at the open and click rates on those EDMs, and they've clicked on the hard sales stuff, then we know that they're a hot lead. So then we go to them with a personalized email after that. So that works quite well. And then the other side is we just keep an eye out on who's doing what in the markets, especially with the big dollar value ones. So if we can see that they're, you know, shifted their television campaign or something to start targeting a different audience, then we'll just reach out to them. But for the 5,000 people we've got in our database, we've got enough information on all of them to personalize the emails to them once we get to
That's
that.
that's so amazing. I learned from this guy named Jeremy Haynes. He was articulating this idea in one of his YouTube videos. But basically he said, if you ever shop at Louis Vuitton or Versace and you spend enough money with them, you get the utmost personal care. Like you get a personal concierge. You can text him all hours of the day. You say, "Hey, I'm gonna be there tomorrow at 2 o'clock." They'll fucking pull up to your house in like a nice ass vehicle. They'll take you to the fucking place. You're the only guy allowed in the store. It's just you, the concierge, the fucking bodyguard out front. Like they treat you and personalize the experience so well. Like they make you feel like a rock star. And I'm trying to do that, in my own business, of course, because that message really just resonated with me. And especially if I'm going up market, I want to, make it personalized. It can't be a
Yeah,
fucking spray and pray model. You know what I mean? So hats off to you there. Do you find that it's beneficial? Like it helps, like personalizing it?
100%. Because
Right, right, right.
what they realize then is that you've taken the time to learn a bit about their business, and that makes a big difference. Because then our first interaction, like the first time we're going to talk to them, is a discovery session where we want to find out more. But if you've proven to a potential sponsor that you've taken the time to learn a bit about their business for that initial personalized outreach, then we know that from experience, we're more likely to get the meeting, to get the brief, and then to go and sign the sponsorship.
Absolutely. And I guess getting back to the story, like if somebody picked me up like a Rolls Royce as an example, and I was the only guy in this Versace store, like I feel like a king. I'm like, fuck yeah, I love Versace. I'm doing this again next month or whatever the case is. And that's the same thing for the type of sales that we do. Like, if you take the time to write something that is applicable to me and only me, it's like, thank you, Trent. I respect you for doing the research. You earn my business type shit. You know what I mean?
And that plays to what we do. So for the big dollar stuff, we take the time. And, like me and my business partner, Matt, we're lucky. We've worked in the automotive industry for 30 years. So we know before we came together, we had a lot of contacts, but we know the landscape. And the landscape in Australia, unlike America, the landscape's small out here. So you've got a few big players that own a lot of brands. A lot of people don't know that they own all these different brands that are out in the market. So one of the things that we need to be really careful of when we're signing up sponsors, because for the most part, sponsors get exclusivity at an event. So just say you get like a O'Reilly's parts store, you guys will know that, then you wouldn't be able to have Napa as a sponsor at the same event. So we got to make sure that if we engage a sponsor, we're engaging their biggest brand with the biggest budget. So we don't take a smaller brand and then knock out a potential one of the bigger brands from the other one. So, there's only like 30 million people in Australia. So we're tiny compared to the States. So it's a bit more incestuous when it comes to who owns all the different potential sponsor things, because there's a couple of big businesses own a lot of them. So understanding that, and when you can prove to someone that you understand what they own. So I don't know if you'd know. So Napa bought one of the big automotive aftermarket chains in Australia, I think like 10 years ago. So we went to those guys and we go, oh, we know how Napa, and then the business what I had was Repco, and then these 5 other brands. We know how they all integrate, and we know what you want to do with each of them. Here's a sponsorship proposal that takes in all the brands that are under your umbrella, whether the public knows that you own them all or not. And they love that, because then they're like, oh, these guys know the automotive market as well as we do.
I feel like if you can
Being the expert's critical, man, when you're selling.
just gonna say that if you can speak their language and like the insider lingo, it's like I can trust this guy. Like he's not some novice, some guy just fresh off the streets who's gonna try to sell me some shit. But like if you could speak their language at the back of their hand, their problems, their solutions. If you can articulate yourself and their problems better than they can, the solution just makes sense. Doesn't matter what the solution is.
That's right.
Quick or go for it.
There's one other thing I was going to say, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a bit unique, right? So I love cars, and I've got a few project cars, and a lot of the times I walk in and I go, I probably use your product more than you have. And a lot of the marketing managers agree.
That's badass. I like that. Let's see. I imagine, and maybe I'm wrong here, but you kind of have 2 ICPs or 2 people that you can essentially sell to. Let me ask this question. Are you actively trying to take on more events so you can sell to more sponsors, or are you pretty locked in with your current events and you're actively just trying to sell more sponsors?
We're pretty locked in with our current events and just trying to increase the revenue from the sponsors. So depending on where an event's at, and I think, we're 5 years into this business. We've got the biggest automotive lifestyle event in Australia. It tracks 100,000 people. So it's a big event.
Yes, that's
And I can
massive.
see that we're going to get to a point where we've sold all of their sponsorship assets. So unless they find more sponsorship assets to sell, and we're doing, now we're doing 2 and 3 year deals, so we don't have to resell to the same people every year. Because generally, the sponsors for this event, it's a fantastic event. They don't really go. Once you've got them, they tend to stay because the event's good. The event promoter's great on delivering on what we've promised in the deck, so they don't go. So there's two things we try and do. We either try and find more deliverables that they can sell, and then once we tap that out, and we're not close to tapping it out, but we're getting close to the biggest event, then we'll have to look for some other events. But it's a bit of a balance between the two.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know the correct words for that, but I imagine you wouldn't want to compete with the event holder, if that makes sense. Like we have event A and event B, and you sell sponsorships for like both events. It's like, you know what I mean? Kind of like not messed up, but like a little messed up.
And we've run into that problem, no doubt. And and it goes back to that solution-based selling, right? So if we've got 2 different events, even if like we've got one client that has 5 different events, and even their 5 different events are a little bit different, attract a slightly different target market. So when you do solution-based selling and we've got competing events, which we do have as well, we just go, well, we're just going to sell them the solution that best fits their problem. And if that's not your event, that's really not your problem. Right? We've got potential sponsors that fit your event, but when we're doing solution-based selling, it's the solution. So if your event's not the solution, it's not going to get pitched to. And
For
that's an
sure.
easy way to sort of manage that.
No, absolutely. On that topic of like the sales process, how much time, percentage wise, would you say is devoted to discovery, learning about their needs, their desires, their fears, their challenges, whatever, versus presenting the actual solution?
80% learning, 20% presenting.
And if you had to stick to a framework, by the way, I love that because you don't really sell anybody, bro. Like they only sell themselves, and you really just kind of you ask good enough questions to like get them to rethink their own problem out loud. It's like I didn't even think about that until you asked me that question. Like that's when you know you
Mhm.
got it. Anyways,
That's what you got to, yeah.
the framework that you follow, like if you had to like think about mentors or like people that you look up to in the sales space, because I'll let you know mine. Like it was Grant Cardone, and then I realized like I love that guy. He's a great marketer, maybe a decent salesperson at best, great marketer. I like Cole Gordon, but he also learned from Jeremy Miner, and I think Jeremy Miner learned from somebody else. But I think the last two I mentioned, Cole Gordon, Jeremy Miner, is like the process that I like to stick to, where the same thing as you said, 80% learning, 80% question asking, and just like shutting up and listening, and 20% solution, right? But you don't really know how to present the best solution if you don't have all the information that you need. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's why we don't have these standard decks, because they don't really, if they're for everyone, they're sort of for no one.
And that's a fucking marketing principle. Absolutely. If you help everyone, or if you think you can help everyone, you inherently are for no one. You know, basically what you
100%.
just said. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
And that's funny. I
Another,
mean, I did marketing at university a long, long
oh,
time
shit.
ago. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I came from a marketing background and work out that I'm better in sales. But that marketing back, and I think this is where me and my business partner have really got these complementary skill sets. Like I said, I learned he's a much better salesperson than me. But what I'm really good at is taking a brief and then turning it into a presentation that answers what we've learned in the brief. And then he just goes in and does his baby face and sash and stuff, walks out, and they start talking about price, and then we just dropping deals.
That's amazing. I want to ask if you are attempting to gather data, ask questions, and they're giving you pushback, they are just not forthcoming, but not being compliant, one might say. Do you have like a mindset shift? Do you like reframe the conversation to bring it back on point? Or I guess what is kind of your flow, your system? Did that question make sense at all?
Yeah, yeah. So we will
Okay.
reframe it. We generally find, because we do a lot of listening at the start, like in that 80% area before we start selling to them, and we've got a lot of history in the automotive aftermarket, then we sort of come in and we know that 90% of our presentations are on point. They might just need a little bit of a tweaking, like change the deliverable here, do this. Oh, we don't have that asset, so let's drop that and add this in. But generally, by the time we get to presenting it, we know that we're pretty close to having a solution that's right for those guys. And then it's just getting them to understand that it's right for them. But when they've briefed us and we come back with a solution, then they know it's right. So it's a pretty easy thing. And it'll just be something like, and we see this a bit because I'm not sure what the economics are like in the States at the moment, but the headwinds in Australia are hurting pretty hard at the moment. Like it's not that Australia's in a bit of pain economically, like cost of living's
Sure.
crazy. So that means that people are spending less and it all goes around. But what we're finding is we're not that the only thing it's doing for us is extending the sales process. We're not losing deals. Just taking people more time to make the decision. They've got to do more due diligence in the bigger companies to get it across the line.
Buying cycles have definitely increased, and I imagine for you, like you said at the start, sometimes it's 18 months. I guess you just gotta know and, like, trust the process, you know? I feel like as a salesperson, when I was up and coming, I would get so attached to the outcome. But you can't control if they're gonna say yes or no, like, you can't. You can do your absolute fucking best, and they can still say fucking no to your ass. So I
Yeah.
had to fall in love and, like, even today, like, I'm still in love with the process, in love with the inputs, and, like, completely detached from the outcome. And it's if I can maintain that state, the more fucking outcomes I produce. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like we do, we're the same. We're less about the yes and the no. If we know what we've presented is going to match, then more for them for not taking it, right? And then generally, if they say no, it'll be a reason like they've had their budget cut or they've changed. Yeah, we know that we've had that they've either had their budget changed, a new marketing person's come in, they want to do something completely different. That happens all the time. People like to put their thumbprint on their new role. But yeah, we detach ourselves from the process, and it's just about having enough work, especially when we're working on the sponsorship, which could have a sales cycle of 18 months. It's just having the pipeline fat enough that you don't need to drop every. If you need to drop every deal, you're in a problem. If you've got
But
a contingency for if we've got a sponsorship asset like the naming rights of an event that's for sale, we'll have our primary target and at least 3 others that we've got sitting there ready to go. So it's just about keeping the pipeline fat.
my dad's in insurance sales, and he said the same thing. He's like, "You need your pipeline busted from the front and from the back. You're gonna have a massive pipeline." And I was like, "You got it, Dad. You got it." Let's see.
Yeah.
As we are wrapping up on time, thank you for going over. Two more questions. One, what is the biggest goal for the company you guys are hoping to achieve over the next 12 months?
Interestingly, we are also struggling to find salespeople, which is hard. So within the next month, we're launching a new business, which is a sponsor advocacy business. So we're putting the lessons that we've learned selling sponsorship. We're going to go out there and work with larger businesses that have multiple sponsorship deals, review their sponsorship budget and their sponsorship spend, and help them increase their ROI out of their sponsorship dollar. So we've got this new business called Silent Tiger, sponsor advocacy business. So that's probably the next spool up from the business that we've got now. So Media Scrum's going to continue to grow and prosper, but this Silent Tiger is going to get the people who have sponsorships in place. And we know a lot of people are paying too much for sponsorships and not getting enough out of them. So we can come in and work with them to make sure that they're getting more ROI in their sponsorship budget. So we're excited about that. And we can only do that because we've done so many sponsorship deals in this space that we're the experts now. You know what I mean? In that market. There's not many people that have sold that amount of sponsorship in the automotive aftermarket in Australia, like a dollar value than me, my business partner, Matt. So that's the obvious next step for us, and we're excited about that.
I actually that's a strong, I don't wanna call it pivot, but strong upmarket move in my fucking opinion. Hats off to you,
Mm.
my friend. Are y'all only gonna stick in the Aussie market, or are you guys thinking about pivoting kinda globally for that?
There's definitely potential global pivot for that. We do a lot of work with some businesses in the States already. And I'm not talking about the sponsorship side. I'm just talking businesses that are similar to us. So marketing businesses in the US. So there's definitely the potential to push into the US from here. We think it's a pretty similar-ish market that we've got a pretty good understanding of from here. So you definitely got, like, that one's got global potential. The selling would be harder on a global potential because it takes a
Yes.
long time to learn about the events. And, because me and my business partner are unfortunately bitten by the automotive modifying car bug, we've been going to the events that we're now selling since we were like 20. So for like 30 years, we've been going to the events longer than some of the event promoters have owned the events. So we know them inside out. So taking that and then putting it into a new market where we don't know the events intimately is more of a challenge. But the sponsorship advocacy new business we've got, that's got global potential for sure.
That's what I was really referring to because I imagine that is a very similar structure because it's selling events. I don't think selling events changes, doesn't matter what the fuck the event is, but learning about each event Sure, there's some fucking nuances and shit, of course, but like
Mm.
learning about the event is way more of a challenge. And dude, I would live in Australia right the fuck now if it wasn't for the time zone difference. Oh my gosh, dude, trying to sell with the time zone difference, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. It's so fucking hard, dude. Oh my heavens.
I mean,
Anyways,
I'd just like to do 6 months living in the States and 6 months living here, miss winter here, do summer in LA. It'd be perfect.
absolutely. And then last question for you, my friend. Where could they find you if they wanted to shoot the shit and talk sales?
Mediascrum.com.au. Just jump on there, shoot us a message, look for Trent Dyball on LinkedIn or Mediascrum on LinkedIn. We're pretty good at responding, being the salespeople. So I'd love to hear from anyone who's watching this podcast. And Jordan, mate, I've enjoyed it. It's been fantastic. This 45 minutes has flown by. When you said we've got to almost time to wrap it up, I'm like, surely not.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Same for here, Trent, or same on my end. Thanks for joining us, audience. Talk to you soon.